Quinton is an average Joe who no one understands. Caleb, Mike, and Rowan always giving him demands. Down the hall into his room, starts ranting instantly. And his hard work and sweat makes him just incense. For in reality, he is a reviewer, subpar reviewer.
Beards and flannel! Misquoted comic panels.
Reviewer, subpar reviewer. Really mad, polite, scat, evil dad, big rad.
Fair use, verb abuse, Psychon Blues, Tempting Moves, Frosty Skates, Norman Bates, Long Drive, cut the brakes!
Reviewer, subpar reviewer. You'll waste at least 10 minutes right here. It's Quinton Reviewer.
Humanity has an odd fascination with the past, and that's not necessarily something that's new. Look at the past 100 years of television and filmmaking. We've always been stuck a little bit before our time. In the 50s, it was the 20s. In the 80s, it was the 50s. And up until just recently, it was the 80s again. And now we're starting to hit the 90s and early 2000s. And thus, as with every single time, we feel like we have to check back on the past to see how things used to be. There's the potential that's being left open for a revisitation of old franchises and TV shows that either were left a little bit too open or perhaps just could be updated, or maybe neither, but that's another discussion. Nickelodeon, for instance, is discussing bringing back some of its hottest topics from the 90s and 2000s. And this includes Hey Arnold and, some other stuff. It's a little vague and inconsistent, but it's all there. And since we're on the topic of classic revisitations, I'd like to put forward a little bit of one of my favorites under the hope that it too will be brought back. The classic early 2000s show, The Fairly Oddparents, which was canceled in 2006 just before it was starting to really hit its prime, just before the characters felt like they were really starting to fit in, and just before the universe felt big enough to explore fully. And I just really hope that Nick will bring that show back in all its glory and bring something new to the table with it. I'm joking, of course. The Fairly Oddparents is still on the air today, and it's terrible. Seeing something you love go off the air can be painful. But in my eyes, it's not nearly as bad as seeing it be put on life support when it's been on the cusp of death for years now. SpongeBob, Phineas and Ferb, The Simpsons, The Adventures of Super Pup, Family Guy, the list goes on and on. Because when the corporate needs to gain money overshadows the artistic attempts to make something enjoyable, the product loses all heart and class and just becomes a zombie of what it once was. Yeah, it looks like Timmy. It sounds like Timmy. But that ain't Timmy. And few franchises have fallen further down this hole than The Fairly Oddparents, an early 2000s hit about an average kid who is gifted with a pair of fairy godparents to grant his deepest desires. It's a prime example of a show that was a bit ahead of its time, along with Jimmy Neutron, I'd say. Real-world characters, stylish animation, a sense of humor that ages like wine, and a serious universe to build off of. It's no wonder the early episodes are so much something that people think fondly of today. What is a wonder is the countless attempts the show has made to seem relevant. Okay, so making Timmy grow up a year is a cool idea, but it's clear that this was not enough to keep the show afloat. No. That was just the ramp set up for the shark jumping. So suddenly they have a baby? What's next? A whole cool hip-hop dog that's all on the serious down mojo, yo? No, I'm serious. It's actually what they did.
He's totally in my face!
And now they have added yet another character to this classic continuum. A wacky, super independent neighbor who shares Timmy's parents.
Guys, stop. Please stop. Just let it die. Just let it die. Please.
And despite the fact that the show continues to grow more and more cancerous as it goes on and on, none of these things are the biggest tumor that has befallen to the franchise. I introduce you to Grow Up, Timmy Turner, a 2011 movie set 10 years after the original series, meant to serve as a cap to the original product. It's live action. You couldn't tell? And look who our main star is. Drake freaking Bell. Cutesy boy Instagram star Drake Bell. The cute member of the Drake and Josh boy band. This is Timmy Turner. Buck-toothed, average-faced, unpopular Timmy Turner. This guy is Timmy Turner.
Fuck you.
I honestly don't know what's funnier. The idea that this is gonna grow up to be this, or that this is gonna grow up to be this. Some of my older viewers, or perhaps people that didn't grow up watching Nickelodeon, might not understand just why the idea of Drake Bell playing Timmy Turner is so upsetting. Well, imagine if one show you enjoyed watching as a child was bastardized and ripped apart in front of your eyes, but to try and make an appeal to you, they stuck in another random star from something else you liked as a kid. Drake Bell is playing Timmy Turner in this movie for the same reason that Bill Murray is going to have a 2-second cameo in the upcoming Ghostbusters film. Because the filmmakers are banking on the idea that seeing someone who used to be in good things will make you subliminally think that this is a good thing.
Happy birthday, Timmy!
Wanda? Cosmo? What are you guys, crazy?
You're a grown man still wearing horsey pajamas and you're asking if we're crazy?
No, seriously, that's a legitimate question. Why is Timmy still acting like he's 10 years old? And it's not just his pajamas, he still lives with his parents. Look, man, I can't judge you on that one. Economy's tough and the school isn't affordable, but this isn't the weird part. He still goes to the 5th grade. Yeah, he's still in Crocker's class. Huh? At first I thought this was going to be some sort of a clever in-joke. You know, making fun of all these shows, including the original, which featured the cast never aging despite clearly living through multiple years. If Timmy can live through 10 years of television, only age 1 or 2 years, and still be in the 5th grade, then naturally, Timmy would still be in the 5th grade at age 23. But no. This is something they take very seriously and go out of their way to justify. So, basically, Timmy Turner is still in the 5th grade, despite being 23, due to a loophole that the team discovered in the rules. When a child grows up, he has to lose his fairies and forget about them for good. But the way that being a child is defined in the rules is vague. To stay a child and keep his fairies, all Timmy has to do is never leave the 5th grade, never move out of his parents' house, never get a job, do something responsible, and never fall in love.
The only girl I've ever kissed was Tootie. It was 13 years ago, it was forced upon me, and I did not enjoy it.
Ignoring the fact that these stipulations would mean that there are multiple points in the original series where Timmy fills out the adult qualifications as a child, is this really the natural progression of these characters? The idea of Timmy losing his fairies was always one of the most adult ideas in the original, and it dealt with the major themes of growing up. When you become an adult, you have to let people in your life go, and there are people and ideas that you're just going to lose along that adventure. To have Timmy freeze his life in this spot, well, it honestly seems like something he'd do, actually, but the thing that doesn't seem real is Cosmo and Wanda going along with it just so strongly.
We'll always be together!
They love Timmy, but Wanda would have the intelligence and foresight to know that they had to let him move on with his life. The animation style is also super weird in this. In the TV show, they had balance and treated the fairies like characters. They had dialogue, they contributed to conversations and scenes. Cosmo and Wanda were just as much average Joes as Timmy's real parents. But in this film, it's like the fairies were a last-minute addition. They don't add to the conversation, they don't say anything, so the animators just have them flying around making noises for all the scenes they're in.
Love.
Well,
Again, not me. The only girl I've ever kissed was Tootie. Tootie.
It gets really annoying and really distracting. Also, Drake Bell is terrible at acting with nothing. To be fair, though, they probably literally didn't give him any coaching on any of this. I mean, you're supposed to use balloons and motors and stuff to duplicate the motion of these imaginary cartoon characters. You aren't supposed to just start the camera and hope it all works out in the end. Or if you do, work with the actor in post. Put the godparents where he's looking. Fill in the gaps to make it seem like that it's all real. Don't just fill up the screen and hope it looks nice and distracting enough that no one will care. Now, I guess you could argue that the integration of these models is highly impressive, but I think it's the models themselves that are really off. They're strongly reminiscent of the models used in the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour series. In the same way that many Seuss designs work in animation but don't in live action, some character elements that are used in hand-drawn work don't translate into 3D. Most of the Oddparent characters seen in Jimmy Timmy looked terrible. The Jimmy Neutron designs work because they're designed to be functional. The mouth and lower section of the head are small because that's the easiest way to get simple lip designs to not be too jarring. But in trying to translate the fairly designs directly, it didn't work out well. The mouths taking up 45% of the face makes it really hard to get any of those basic emotions or lip animations right. It constantly looks like the faces are trying to fold in on themselves, and good jokes are lost in these failed shots. The only one that really works is Timmy in the first film, because his overbite gives the whole thing more room for motion and for posing, but nearly every other one looks awful, completely terrible, a total failure. But you could ignore and accept this, because the concept was so interesting to look at that it didn't matter if it didn't work 100% of the time. It was just cool to see these two shows swap character designs and animation style. But here, that aspect is gone. You can't forgive the awkward animation because it isn't part of a larger idea at play. It's just an unsettling image that could have been done better. Since the animation is so diverse and totally jarring with the live action look, why not just go full out crazy and do the fairies in the style of the original show? You know, like that one episode of Ned's Declassified.
The Fairly Odd Parents? Hey, it's my daydream.
Riddle me this, class. How does a 23-year-old man still manage to stay in the 5th grade all these years? How does he do it? How is it even possible,
Oh boy, here we go.
Yes! And now I remember, he has fairy godparents!
Seriously, guys? Seriously? Come on. You couldn't get the basic components of Crocker's design right? His ears go on his neck. Come on, watch the source material once before you fumble out this half-thought-out, half-baked, nostalgic garbage.
Okay, seriously though, I have to at least respect that they were trying their best to match the style of the original source material when they racketeered this stuff out, but the end product is so forced it comes across as unnatural. There are very few actors that can really pull off seeming as animated as cartoons. Like that, for instance. Robbie was the king of everything. But when you're so intent on casting the look, casting the voice, casting the style, and you still expect him to be able to pull stuff like that off, it's gonna be nearly impossible. I absolutely gotta give huge chops to the guy playing Crocker here. The first couple times I watched this film, I was seriously convinced that he was dubbed over by the original actor. It was that close. But no, I can't find any credit or note that would suggest that. He seriously just really nails the role that well. In fact, a lot of actors really nail the roles they're meant to play. Jorgen in this, for instance, is basically Jorgen for real. It's actually really cool to see it. Although, to be fair, the huge wand is really what wraps it all together. I was also convinced that the scene with the parents was dubbed, but apparently I was wrong. That's seriously the voice of Timmy's dad playing Timmy's dad.
Really? Ooh, they need unskilled workers at that new dynamite factory. Sounds exciting and dangerous.
That's really cool to see, and adds a whole lot to the experience. But this film's constant attempt to duplicate the stylization of a cartoon when they know they just can't pull it off really just takes you out of the project. Also, while some characters are captured really well by the film, others aren't.
Well, look who it is trashing my daycare. The biggest twerp in Dimsdale, Timmy Turner.
Oh, Vicky. What have they done to you?
Did you guys really have to make her the only character with literal triangle cone tits? What's with your half and half dedication to getting the looks mildly correct, but everything else totally wrong? It's also unavoidable to discuss the fact that Timmy's interactions with these children is nothing short of creepy. It's the kind of thing that the filmmaker can't have had a blind eye to, or at least they shouldn't have. Imagine if similar concepts, like Billy Madison, tried this hard to ignore the creep level. It would just make it more unsettling. Basically, this part of the movie features Jorgen trying to make Timmy fall in love with someone.
Which is fucking against the rules.
Since that is the easiest way to trick him into becoming an adult. This usually ends with hilarious results.
You're mine forever. I'll love you till the end of time.
But apparently Jorgen doesn't need to intervene at all, as Timmy sees a woman on the street and immediately becomes smitten. I always find the sexy walks in movies to seem inherently funny looking and uncomfortable. Also, Tommy, I don't want to be disrespectful, but that ain't stalk a woman through town to get her number hot. That's meet her in art class and be friends with her for a long time, maybe a couple years, and try to date her for a week, but it doesn't work out because you're two good friends by that point hot. Meanwhile, in the town square, Timmy and the rest of Dimsdale gather around a business mogul who has bought out the park to build a new business, some sort of oil hotel.
Ladies and gentlemen, ever since Daddy slapped a shovel in my little hand, I have been looking for fuel to run our everyday life. I'm here to Dimsdale and see it for myself. No.
Dimsdale.
What?
Now, I don't know if it's too obvious, but this character was actually inspired by Biff Tannen from Back to the Future Part 2, who was inspired by Donald Trump, of course.
Let's say China.
It will produce 1,000 gigawatts of filthy, yet reasonably affordable energy and provide decent room service.
Yeah, that's Trump. That's Trump right there. That's our man.
Also at the rally are Chester and AJ, who are... just watch.
Yeah, that's right, Timmy T. Looks like AJ is all grown up and styling in a brand new Argyle sweater.
And me, professional security expert, fighting crime with my smarty melon and multiple keys on a retractable wire.
So the insinuation here is that AJ and Chester are super jelly of Tommy for how he's got to stay in the 5th grade while they had to become boring adults.
Yeah, no. I know people who've gotten held back 1 year, and I feel terrible for them, having to suffer through another year of public education. If there was someone I knew that had been held back 13 years, was still in the 5th grade, it would not be that sort of situation. Think about all the friends that you saw like twice since the 6th grade. That's a relationship I would have with that person. You know, we're talking about a real stand-by-me situation here. I don't think I know his name. It wouldn't be like that. It'd be more like this.
Tommy? It's Chester. Remember me? The 5th grade. Chester and AJ?
Chester?
Oh man, Tommy! I haven't seen you since you got held back in the 5th grade. How you been doing?
Yeah, man, I'm doing great. I mean, this is the highlight of our lives, you know?
Yeah, man, I get that. So what, you in like college or something?
Yeah, dude. Still in the 5th grade, actually.
Are you serious?
My days are great. They're so easy. I just get to prank Cocker all day, hang out with 10-year-old girls, we play dodgeball, I buy them ice cream. Dude, it's so cool.
Yeah, man, that's great. Look, I gotta like run some errands, you know, but I'll definitely talk to you later.
All right, dude. Don't go to the park tomorrow.
Drumpf tries to start construction at the park, but the 7.5 Tommy followed in begins yelling in protest. Being a genius that she is, she chains herself to a tree in order to stop the bulldozer. That's not... You gotta chain yourself to the tree, you know, all the way, or it doesn't really... Someone wanna help her? You know, help her chain herself to that tree? Drumpf, deciding he doesn't care about her protests, orders his bulldozer operator to destroy the tree and her as well. Which sounds a bit cartoonish, but think about it. If you read that a protester had been killed by a bulldozer at a Trump rally, would you doubt its authenticity for a second? Tommy wishes the bulldozer would break down, and it does. But Drumpf is not deterred, as he orders the men to kill her with other weapons.
Use chainsaws instead!
Tommy wishes for those to become balloons, and I guess that's basically seen as some sort of union difficulties, and they all leave. Tommy runs up to the girl and finds out that she is none other than Tootie from the original series. Huh, that must be my mistake. I keep getting these names wrong. Okay, so who is this character for real?
And the name's not saffron sippin', wheatgrass gurgling anything. It's Tootie.
Tootie? Alright. Are you serious? Are you not joking? That's Tootie? This Tootie. This Tootie. It's that character. Well, you can think about this stuff, optimistically. I mean, they got the same, they both got kind of round faces, you know what I mean? And, they've got a similar angled nose. The ears are close.
No, this is unavoidable. You can't just do that. You can't just take some random character from the original show and then hope that that's going to make us care about them. We're talking about a character whose name means fart! And yet, throughout the film, we get no hint of any noticeable character flaws within her. Well, that's not true, but that's definitely how it's supposed to be presented, that she's some perfect angel. Tommy and Tootsie start hitting it right up, but Tommy has to run away as he remembers that he can't fall in love. Meanwhile, Drumpy and Drumpfed are lamenting that their perfect plan has been ruined by seemingly impossible odds. Like the fact that their bulldozer broke down, and that their chainsaws literally turned into balloons. Just then, the boss is contacted by a mysterious voice, who in turn reveals himself to be Cocker.
Isn't technology great?
I kinda get what they were going for here. When you have a show like The Fairly Oddparents or SpongeBob, which features a lot of joke villains who really do non-threatening things just to do a simple joke or a simple lesson, to suddenly have a situation where they're actually doing something worrying is a kind of an epic idea. In SpongeBob, for instance, Plankton was always a gag evil villain. All he wanted to do was duplicate the Krabby Patty formula so he could compete with Mr. Krabs. And suddenly in the movie, he's pulled that off. So now he just wants to take over the world. A simple concept suddenly has an epic finale. Fairly Oddparents has done specials like this before, where there are suddenly real things at risk, and it is actual characters within the universe that cause this. They don't say, introduce a new villain with no real discernible characteristics or purposes, and then act like he's supposed to be the big thread of the show while still going for the original idea. Hell, here's an idea. Switch out Drumfoo here with Doug Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome.
That's right, Doug Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome.
Yeah, if your villain's gonna be a billionaire mogul hell-bent on taking over iconic places in Dimsdale, why not just use the character that already had that shtick going on? You know, the character that was actually funny to watch. In fact, now that I think about it, most of the jokes in the original show only work because it's a cartoon. Like I said, it's not something you can pull off in live action. But that bit with Dimmadome's hat always going off the top of the screen, that would be fucking amazing in live action. And can you imagine one goofy side villain teaming up with another goofy side villain to finally make a solid force against Timmy Turner? That would be cool and interesting and a good movie. This is none of those things. Instead, the film plays away from its strengths and to its weaknesses. It has at least some competency in duplicating something nostalgic, but instead it tries to create something new. And by new, I mean bland, and by bland, I mean terrible, and by terrible, I mean build the wall, build the wall, build the wall, build the wall. The fairies try to coach Timmy on how he's been acting odd since the incident in the park.
You've been acting sick since you saw Tootie in the park yesterday.
Sick? No, I just have a cold or something.
That's what being sick means, Timmy. After doing a little more prying, they discover that Timmy has grown at least somewhat in his love meter. And this is just bad because he's suddenly outside to hang with the Tommies!
It was nice meeting you. No!
Wait, don't go. Wait, no, stay. Wait.
Our vacation's already paid for!
We'll give you money!
Livestock!
Raisins!
Cosmo, we gotta stop her before she breaks up our family!
For once, I agree with your shrill, commanding, and authoritative voice!
Oh look, Cosmo's channeling millennial Democrats.
Using the diverse and magic powers of hormones, Tommykins ends up agreeing to go on a date with Tootsie Pop, putting his fairies in direct danger.
Can't believe Turner's still rolling two-wheel style.
It's what happens when you don't grow up, huh? Get your license?
Yeah, and trade in two wheels for fresh, flat, four-wheel transport. Just jealous.
So I know I've really harped on this one a bit too much, but why are these two such cunts in this movie? What about all that stuff about friendship and caring for people based off of who they are?
But I want friends who like me for who I am, not the stuff I have.
All gone for these gags about these jelly friends wishing that they were in the 5th grade at age 23. While Tootsie and Tommy are on their romantic bike ride, Jesus Christ, it doesn't even sound like a real idea. Cocker and Drumfelicious begin constructing a device that will allow Cox to capture the fairies. Stake University decides that the only way to bring Timmy to them is to capture Tootsie Pop and bring her to their lair. I don't really get why you guys need Timmy, now that I think about it. But Tootsie takes Timmy out to a fancy restaurant, causing Cosmo and Wanda to become extremely nervous. To disrupt the date, they turn from animated fairies into live-action humans, and in turn transform a substandard, mildly confused sequel film into an absolute cringe fest.
Oh my gosh! We're humans! And look! I've got legs!
These two actors, playing Cosmopolitan and Wandu as humans, are seriously the worst part of the film. Also, if you had to show the characters as real-world actors, why didn't you just use the literal voice actors like you did for Timmy's dad? Oh. I guess it's because Cosmo had the same voice actor as Timmy's dad.
Oh, and look, Timmy's mom and Wanda also share voice actresses.
Yeah, these two just aren't much fun. For one, they just look awful. They look like they should be in charge of the Hunger Games, not serving as fairies to a child. Second of all, the performances are so wrong and misjudge the characters so much that it really takes pieces out of my soul as I watch it.
It was the only way we could get close enough to stop Tootie. And I hear that the lobster bisque here is delicious.
So, expanding on something I brought up before because I kind of have to. It's undeniably weird how clingy the fairies are in this movie. Like, the fairies are literally supposed to represent Timmy's parents by some capacity. Trying to make it some weird relationship other than that just feels... it feels wrong. How strange would it be if there was a movie, a serious, non-ironic movie, where two parents kept their children in the 5th grade up to the age of 23 because they were just that clingy? And this might work if it was illustrated as something Timmy sought out because he loved them so much, and it was portrayed as something they were not approving of, but instead the insinuation that's given off is that it was Cosmo or Wanda's idea in the first place. And furthermore, even the relationship between the pair is misguided in this film. There's this harsh, mean-spirited tone about it all. The odd joke here and there is fine, but when it's such a consistent theme that they literally can't get along at all, and when it's coming from both sides and not just an ironic Cosmo, it comes across as really mean and against everything the original series was about.
Don't worry, Wanda. You'll always have me.
Trying to ruin their date, anti-Cosmo and anti-Wanda pour food on Tootsie Poo, ruining her hair. It's times like this that I gotta stop to think about how Timmy and Tootsie literally have nothing to do with their animated counterparts. Like, while writing this review, I listed to myself all the characters from the original that make some sort of appearance in this film. And I literally forgot to put these two on because there's so little correlation. Tootsie in the original series is an unattractive, obsessive, energetic creator who gets too invested in the few things she has in her life because she's so far into a crappy family. This Tootsie, she's a pretty girl that worries about her hair getting messed up, and her basic character notes come down to athletic, protests big business, likes small animals. That's it. The only scene in this film that seems even remotely right is this awkward scene where she's trying to convince Tommy to go on a date with her. It feels like the only reason she's actively pursuing him is because of her inner obsession with him that's still somewhat potent in her mindset. And that's interesting. It's at least some sort of character backup or motivation. You can do something like that you wouldn't see in every single one of these films. But it doesn't follow through, and the rest of the film just destroys any connection that was there at all. It took me a while to figure out exactly what was missing from Timmy that made him so different from his animated counterpart. But after watching a bunch of older episodes, which I remembered fondly, I think I figured it out. Comedically, in terms of writing, Timmy's role in the original show was more than just as a goofy kid. He was a bit of a deadpan character.
And we're your fairy godparents!
What do you think, Timmy?
I think I'm calling the cops.
It's kind of weird to think about now considering his bubblish personality and colorful outlook. But comedically, more often than not, that was the purpose that he served in dialogue. For every odd situation he was put in that defied all reality as we know it, he would be the one who had the most realistic, honest, down-to-earth question or statement to put out in the air. And whenever someone noticed that something was off, that something wasn't quite right with how he was acting, what he was doing, he had the most perfect, hilarious, iconic deadpan response.
Internet?
But this film's script doesn't represent that comedic styling that the show often stuck to. It's infatuated with recreating as much as the original show as it can, but it totally misses the entire interior structure that made it good to begin with. I almost forgot the most significant part of this scene. Timmy lost his hat in the last musical montage. So Tootsie gives him a new one, which she bought him. And it's basically just like a pink fedora. This is supposed to be a visual representation of him becoming an adult. Him putting on a pink fedora. Right.
You're falling in love, Timmy. And if that happens, the three of us won't be together.
Tom Joe Kazooie surprises Tootsie Pooh Bear by restoring the park to how it was when they were kids, which is what she's been advocating for the entire film. The pair share a magical moment in a tree, but Tom backs out just before the two nearly kiss. This upsets Toot Toot, who insists to know what's holding him back.
What happened, Timmy?
I fell out of a tree?
It looked like you fell out of the tree so you wouldn't have to kiss me.
It's just really complicated right now.
Are you seeing someone else?
No.
Did you just get out of a bad relationship?
No.
Maybe he just doesn't feel comfortable with the situation he's been put in. Maybe he's not used to this sort of thing, and he just needs time to be able to do something like that.
I don't understand how I could love someone since 3rd grade. Someone who rebuilds a park for me, saves my tree, and then creates the most romantic day ever, and then tells me he can't kiss me.
Okay, look, he does not owe you anything, okay? You can't just try and guilt people into these things because you spent the day with him. That's a very harsh and not a nice thing to do, okay? Okay, I think you need to take a step back, just check your privilege.
I take it back. You understand completely.
Grow up, Timmy Turner!
Moody storms out of the park and sees a bunny helpless in the middle of a street. She goes to help it, but is caught in a net that rises to catch her.
You?
Ironic, isn't it? Someone who cares so much for helpless little creatures was betrayed by a helpless little creature.
Okay, look, dude, we get it. You're Donald Trump. It's stopped being menacing a super long time.
Magnate, stop Toadie! Hooray!
Okay, so I'm gonna seem like a bit of a broken record here, but, are you serious? What are you doing? Come on!
I mean, Cosmo and Wanda, they seemed a bit out of character. They seemed a bit too mean, but nothing to this scale. Wanda just celebrated the kidnapping of a 23-year-old woman like it was an early Christmas present.
While they initially celebrate, they soon realize through Poof's intense stares that there's something wrong in what they're doing, and that they have to help Tommy rescue her. Also, you may have noticed that this is literally the first time I brought up Poof in this review. That's essentially because he's a pointless character thrown in haphazardly to bring something new to the show without adding anything of note that would change the script style significantly. Don't take this the wrong way, but in some ways he reminds me of those token minority characters that don't really say much until there's a scene where they want to remind you that the character exists. I get the feeling that the writers would love to just ditch the character entirely, but that's not something you can easily do when you've written in two characters having a baby. The character is literally so pointless that I literally forgot that she existed for the, 10 minutes that he wasn't on screen?
Let's tell Timmy and save Tootie!
Don't worry, little fairy!
You know what? I take it all back. This Ghostbusters reboot doesn't look half bad. The kids run in to tell Tommy that Tootsie Pop has been captured, and he learns that his fairies are also in distress. Thus he has to find a way to help them, and the only logical step is to steal and wreck a motorcycle for no reason. Also, he knocks a pizza into Vicky, which causes her to pursue him in anger, which ends in an incident where Timmy is pinned by Jorgen, who has a love error and is nearly hit, but Jorgen fires it at Sissy, and the Sissy falls in love with Jorgen, and that's the joke! Meanwhile, Drumfoo equals Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo takes Tootette down to his secret evil lair, which he has at some point constructed. Which is made out of some, creepy versions of childish images. It's like if McDonald's went all out on the clown theme and just built all their fun rooms in the basement of that creepy guy down the street. He first uses them to add a ball pit, which only magic could do, since I honestly haven't seen one since I was 4, and there was that pink eye thing. Seen a lot of empty ball pits, but why would you go in an empty ball pit? An empty ball pit is like a hole in the ground, covered in tent parts. To prove the power of the fairies, he makes the pit never-ending, and wishes that Crocker would fall in, removing the only enjoyable part of the film. Also, if you could interpret this as him trying to kill Crocker, you would realize that the magic would cancel out as soon as he tries to do this, because even when magic is being controlled by a second entity, it can still not be used to kill someone. But knowing that fact just takes out all the tension in these scenes, so forget I mentioned it. To rescue the girl that he loves and his fairies, who are also there, Tommy attempts to recruit the help of A.G. and Chester.
Chester! Oh, God! Chester! Take my wallet! Take it! Take it! Leave me alone! Dude, you gotta help me, man! You gotta help me! Oh, God, what do you want? Dude, listen! Listen, man! Are you wearing a fedora? Dude, listen to me! Okay! They took him, dude! Who did they take? They took him! Who is it? Donald Trump took my fairlies, man! What? I need my fairlies! We gotta break into the Trump towers and steal them back! I don't want anything. I don't want to be a part of this. You gotta... I swear to God, if you don't help me, I'll kill your family! Okay! Ah! Chester!
We return to Fump Towers, where our villain continues to torment his fairies, wishing for childish things that don't make him seem threatening in the slightest.
You call yourself a supervillain? No way! Your costume isn't scary. You have no upper body strength.
Wow, this movie's getting real self-aware now.
He also brings a 3-inch figure to life, grows huge muscles, and embarrasses his only Secret Service member to the point that he is left alone without one. Also, I want to point out that this 3-inch figure would have been another great chance to have some pointless but fun continuity. Maybe have it be like a dark laser action figure, or I don't know, like a Doug Dimmadome action figure. Am I making sense anymore? Tootie is able to break out of her mousetrap by using a yo-yo to grab the release switch and rise it enough to get her out of that cage. She immediately starts planning to save the Fairleys from their confinement. At the same time, A.G. and Chester help Tommy break into Trump's HQ. Huh. You'd think it would have been easier than that.
Finally, this movie can start to heat up for the final conclusion. AJ, Chester, and Timmy back together at last. And what an unstoppable team. AJ with his brilliance, Chester with his ingenuity, and Timmy with his willingness to do what's right. Oh yeah. Separated for years, but friendship never dies. Let's do this. This is going to be epic.
Good luck, Timmy! You still owe us girlfriends!
Nope, that's my fault. That's my fault for expecting this movie to do something right.
Tommy finally reaches the lair where he finds that the Fairleys are being drained near death, which I don't know why Trump would do that if he knows that these are his only pair. You'd think he would like let him charge or, you know, not destroy everything. Because as soon as the fairies are gone, or dead, you know, like everything they've wished apparently is undone. So just by draining them this quickly, he's just like making some really quick optical illusions that'll go away. Fuck it. Despite his great mental abilities, he just can't help them or Tootsie Pooh Bear, Winnie the Pooh Bear, as he is attacked by the 3-inch figure brought to life by Ultra Magnus here. Timmy is able to defeat him with some clever thinking, though.
Nothing sadder than opening up a new toy that comes without batteries.
3-inch figures do not take batteries. I feel like you should know this.
Timmy is able to save Tootie, but is cornered by Drumpy Lootsy Tootsie Wootsy, who prepares to use the last of the power in the Fairleys to blast away the pair. In the moments before this, Timmy professes that he loves Tootie and kisses her, because falling in love with a girl means that Timmy has become an adult.
Except, no. No, it does not.
I'm not talking about the stupid rules the film makes here. I'm talking about this from a real-world perspective, and more importantly, from a perspective of the morals illustrated by the narrative here. Falling in love with a girl in 2 days because of superficial aspects that you can easily glean within a few hours is not being an adult. If anything, it's the most childish form of love. It's infatuation. And being infatuated with someone is not something that only adults can falter to. Even in the original show, Timmy has a superficial attraction to Trixie, almost entirely based off of her looks from afar. In some episodes, he finds out more secret aspects of her life that makes him like her more, and in some episodes, he finds out things that makes him like her less. This is barely worse than what we've seen in this movie. Timmy doesn't know anything about modern reboot Tootie, he just knows that she does flips, looks pretty, and she's sweet from the outside. And within 24 hours, he can suddenly declare that he is in love with her? I always see this in films, the over-marketed cliche of finding love within 2 dates, or in any short period of time. That's just not being in love, that's infatuation. Infatuation dies easily. Nuance kills it like bug spray. Finding a significant other that you will spend the rest of your life with is like finding a best friend. How silly would it be if films showed characters declaring their friends they met in the last 2 hours their best mates? This idea could have worked, but you have to do it well. Make Tootsie a little less polished and a little more awkward. Make the interactions between the two more natural. And find a way to show them growing on each other over a period of time. Make their attraction based on personality and content of character, not attractive walks and childish obsessions. And then, and only then, would them falling in love ever signify some sort of adult transformation. Or just go straight into Animu territory, cut this crap about them not having seen each other for 10 years, and make them awkward childhood friends who hang out. It's a cliche, but something's happening there. And fuck it, just make it a high school movie. That's a way better idea than whatever the hell this shit is. So the Fairleys disappear. No one in the film loses their memory of the events because, well, I mean, honestly, I don't think these guys watched a single episode of the show, so I can't blame them for that. Trump goes crazy and is put away, which is the fucking least realistic part of the movie. And all's well that ends well. Except not really. That's right. An amendment is passed by the fairies, who I just want to point out are all live-action actors and not Jimmy Timmy Power Hour .exe 3D models. which allows any person named Timmy Turner who has saved the fairies multiple times to be able to keep his fairies for the rest of his life, as long as he uses their powers for charitable goals.
And thus, Timmy learns to never grow up, lives with his parental figures for the rest of his life, and after this, I'm sure, begins to consider how he can use this sort of wish rule to cheat on the fact that he's a 4th grade education and has to support himself and his girlfriend. I also want to point out that this film essentially makes it that one of the greatest episodes in the show's history is now certainly not canon, and thus, we traded in Alec Baldwin for Drake Bell. I'm going to say that might have been a mistake.
Also, I know it's jokingly designed so it'll only ever apply to this Timmy Turner, but there's gotta be another Timmy Turner out there with fairies that is just like, taking some fucking notes.
Hey, I think Poof is trying to say something.
Finally! His first words!
Yo, man, this gonna be so cool, man. We're gonna be bumping, man, trying to help the boys out. You know how we do it. You feel me, dog?
That's gonna take some getting used to.
Should I be mad? Is that racist? Is that stupid? Is that funny? Is it like ironic? Is it ironically? Should I laugh? Should I cry? Should I just end it all right here? I don't know how to deal with these things anymore, honestly. Because I struggle every day with life. I can't find a purpose. I can't find a reason to do anything. And my life is so meaningless. It's just an endless void of pointless things I do to distract myself that I am a failure. I'm an utter failure. I can't do anything right. And I just don't know how to deal with it anymore, man. So that was Grow Up Timmy Turner. And I can see what they were going for. They wanted to recreate the original product while continuing it with a new twist. And in some ways I can really respect that idea. But let's be fair, let's be 100% truthful here. There are Fairly Oddparents porn parodies that capture the spirit of the original show more accurately.
This is something that could have been salvaged in some form. It really could have. Try to duplicate the animation a little more closely, find some jokes that work better, expand upon the characters, do some recasting, rework the script. Now that I think about it, just make a different movie. Nothing can be saved. Make a different movie. You can tell a lot of effort went into this, and I have a lot of respect for that. But it streams so off course that it's insulting to the medium. It often just doesn't come across feeling like a Fairly Oddparents movie, but more like a film about a kid who stayed a kid too long. You could cut the fairies out and the connections to the show entirely and just make it about someone who's having trouble growing up, and it would be alright. It's been done before, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I do think that Nick could bring something to it to make it unique. But when the direction is so confused on who the base audience is supposed to be, how the project is supposed to work, and what it is and isn't connected to, then it just falls apart very quickly. On the other hand, you could have made an interesting Fairly Oddparents movie set in the future, which still could have kept the ties to the original show. Like I mentioned earlier, I think a high school Fairly Oddparents movie would be really interesting, because we know that Timmy keeps his fairies at least until he's 18. And the problem of having to become an adult and leave so much behind when you put on that cap and gown, trust me, it's very much a real worry. What I'm trying to say is that there's many ways that this movie could have been good, but it takes a little more than one scene or one moment to change. It definitely feels like a too many cooks situation, where there just wasn't enough good direction, and thus it comes out not good. It's not good. The movie's not good.
Well, I think there's one honest good thing we can take out of this film, and that is that it really is the worst thing that could be made with the franchise. I mean, by comparison, everything that's made after this has to be the greatest thing ever, right? Yeah, I'm sure I'll never regret saying that sentence.
Parents, Fairly Oddparents. Let's send wings, Cody Crowny things.
Parents, fairly odd parents.
Down the hall to his room, talk Chinese to me. And his hard work to make just sense. For in reality, he is a reviewer, subpar reviewer. Really mad, plight, scad, evil dad, big rad.
Big rad. Okay.
Big rad.
I wish that Donald Trump was president.
Diabetes.